Hi guys, welcome back to I Speak English. My name's Hayley and today I'm going to be teaching you 5 phrasal verbs that you can use in speaking part 2 of your Cambridge C1 exam. So these are going to be phrasal verbs you can use for any question you get in your Cambridge C1 speaking part 2 part. Okay, any question you can use these phrasal verbs. So keep watching if you want to learn some new phrasal verbs or if you're struggling in general with speaking, because I'm going to give you a few more tips. And before we take a look at that, make sure that you're subscribed and you hit the bell so that you get a notification from me every time I upload a new video. New videos every Saturday, so if you want to learn weekly, make sure you're subscribed and you can get tips from me every week. Alright, let's get started then. Alright, so 5 phrasal verbs for your speaking part 2. So these are going to be phrasal verbs that you can use for any speaking part 2 question you get. So just to remind you, your speaking part 2 for your Cambridge C1 exam is where you get 2 photos. You need to compare and contrast those photos in terms of 2 questions, and you only have 1 minute to do that. So obviously you have no idea what the photos are going to be. You don't know what topic you'll get. So that's why I'm going to give you general phrasal verbs that you can just use for any photo you get. So the first phrasal verb I'm going to give you is to stand out. Okay, so to stand out means when something is very noticeable or when it draws your attention. So the way you can use stand out in your speaking part 2, you could say something like, what stands out to me in the first photo is the look on the woman's face. She seems to be quite upset. Okay, so you're basically saying the thing I notice about this photo is what stands out to me. If you look there, we've used a cleft sentence as well. What stands out to me? That's a cleft sentence. If you're not sure what a cleft sentence is, I'll link a video up here to cleft sentences and how to use them in your exam. It's a really important grammar point you need to know for Cambridge C1. So take a look at that video up there if you're not sure what a cleft sentence is. For now, we're going to move on to number 2. Phrasal verb number 2 is point out, which is to draw someone's attention to something. So for example, you could say something like, I'd like to point out the differences in emotions in the 2 photos. In the first one, the man appears to be frustrated, whereas in the second one, the woman seems laid back. Okay, so again, remember you're comparing and contrasting, so you are literally pointing out the differences between the 2. So you can say that, I'd like to point out the difference. You can just remember this phrase if you want, I'd like to point out the differences in whatever. Just keep that in your mind when you're in the exam, and it should help you kind of keep on track and also get a phrasal verb in there as well. So remember, phrasal verbs are really important for your vocabulary mark. This will get you a high mark for vocabulary, for your range of vocabulary. Hopefully your accuracy as well if you can use it correctly. All right, moving on to number 3 is come across. Come across is a synonym for seem. Okay, so when you're looking at someone or the way someone behaves, if they seem a particular way, they can come across as something. So you could use it like this. The man in the first photo comes across as rather upset. Perhaps he had a problem on the way to work. Okay, so he seems rather upset. It's just a synonym for seem. Okay, so again, when you're describing someone in particular, you can say comes across as and an emotion word usually. Remember, in the speaking part 2, they generally ask you about emotions. That second question that you get is normally what might the person be feeling or something like that. That's your general second question that you get. If you're struggling with speaking part 2 in particular, I do have a speaking Cambridge C1 speaking video course that might help you. I'll put a link in the description so you can take a look, and there's a few preview videos there as well, so you can just kind of see what it's about and how it works, and that should help you, give you a few tips on what you need to include in your speaking. All right, on to our next phrasal verb then, give off. is to emit. You can use this for emotion. You can also use it for smell as well. If something gives off a smell, it emits a smell. But we also use it for emotion. So, for example, you could say something like, the first photo gives off a sense of urgency. We would normally use give off with a sense of. We tend to collocate these two phrases together. This photo gives off a sense of urgency and activity with people moving quickly, while the second photo gives away a feeling of relaxation and leisure. So you can say give off. You can also say give away as well. You can say either of these verbs and it makes sense. So as long as you use a feeling of or a sense of, you can use give off or give away. Another quick tip for you for speaking part 2. If you're struggling to practice with speaking part 2, if you need feedback to know if you're doing it right or if your grammar and vocabulary is correct, there's a great app called 5 Minute English, and it basically gives you speaking part 2 tasks, and then you record yourself while you're doing the task, and then it will correct everything you've said. It will correct all of your grammar and all of your vocabulary. You can try it for free. I'll put the link in the description if you want to try it. I think you get 5 minutes for free and then you have to pay for it. But it is worth it if you want to get grammar corrections and stuff like that. So I'd recommend that for you if you want to practice a bit. All right, and moving on to our final phrasal verb for speaking part 2 is stir up, which means to provoke an emotion. Okay, so for example, the first photo stirs up a sense of nostalgia, with the lady reminiscing over old photos, while the second one seems more modern. So stir up, again, we tend to collocate with a sense of, stir up a sense of, and then a noun, some kind of emotion. Okay, that's how we would use that there. All right, so there you have it, 5 phrasal verbs to use for speaking part 2. As I said under the video, I'll leave a link for the Cambridge C1 speaking course and for the 5 Minute English app where you can practice your speaking part 2 as well. If this video helped you, if you learned something new, please give it a like. It just helps it to kind of find more people so that they can get tips and prepare for their exam as well. Make sure you're subscribed and you hit the bell so that you get a notification from me whenever I upload a new video. Okay, and as usual, if you have any questions about the exam or English in general, leave me a comment and I'll get back to you whenever I can. All right, that's all from me. I'll see you in a video soon. Bye.